Welcome back to another episode of the BambooSZN podcast. I'm your host, sober wellness coach Dorian Warmsley, the podcast where you'll hear stories of resilience, transformation, and growth to help you feel inspired on your life's journey. This episode is sponsored by Warmsley. They only sell science-backed supplements. You take a short quiz on their website, and they will give you supplements they think will work best for you, personalized to your body, your health. Use code Dorian, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Link is in the description of this episode, so check them out. Now, my guest today is a licensed therapist, and she's learned to turn her pain into purpose, and she is the owner and founder of Mental Summit. We're going to tap into breaking cycles, facing emotions, facing our parents. I bring you Megan Alves.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to be here. I love your little space.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna pull the same card that Natasha did.
What?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So
sorry.
No, don't say sorry. And because the important part about being a clinical social worker is we can diagnose and treat a little bit different. And it takes an extra 3,000 clinical hours and an extra 4-hour clinical test to be able to be clinical. So
So calling you therapist is low-key like lowballing you.
No, I would never say that.
But you put the work in. I need my okay, my bad. So licensed clinical social worker.
Yeah.
So LCSW.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, all the alphabet soup, right?
And then shout out to Natasha. A lot of people I've met she was an amazing guest. Her episode is still getting lots of views, and she was amazing opening up how she did. I didn't expect it. And that's the best kind of conversation where it's just, you feel comfortable enough to share things unexpectedly, I guess.
Yeah. The power of vulnerability, right? I mean, seriously. And I know talking to Natasha, she's actually my biggest mentor. She was the reason that I became a licensed clinical social worker to begin with, and saw something in me that I didn't see in myself for sure. And so I knew what she was going through. And we often say that as professionals, it's hard to talk about what we struggle with in a public lens, or even, sometimes with friends. So it was nice to see her be bold and brave and vulnerable enough to share exactly what she was going through, because there's no shame when we struggle too. It's part of the human experience, right?
Yeah, and I believe it's a little unfair sometimes when certain people in certain professions, not saying they can't express what they're going through, but there's a certain, I don't know the word to use, but
maybe stigma.
Stigma, yeah, that's what I was going to use. I was trying to sound more smarter and something else, but stigma that, hey, you're this and that. There's no way you can be dealing with, like, even me as a fitness coach, they might think, you got it down pat. No, I struggle too. I struggle with my emotions, and I eat, emotionally sometimes.
Yeah.
And not always 100% on my nutrition. I have my weeks or even months where I'm kind of off the wagon. To me, my hardest, working out has always been easy for me. It's just a part of who I am, but sometimes the nutrition side of things can get hard, and the sleep. But I'm always open about it with my clients and everybody, because it's rare you'll come across people who are just 100% across the board at all times.
Yeah.
And people like you and the licensed clinical social workers, it's unfortunate. You guys are human. You struggle with shit.
We're human.
100%.
Absolutely.
Whether it's spouses, kids, life.
Life is still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you said something that I loved that you just shared, is that even as a sober coach in the fitness area, is that you struggle with these things and that you're able to feel comfortable enough sharing it. And oftentimes in a clinical setting, we're not going to share those things. And so I think that, and we're trained not to. I mean, we were kind of talking, the last thing I want to do is sit across my therapist and hear a ton of stuff that they're going through, right? Like, this is kind of my time that I've learned how to create space for myself, and I honor that for each of my clients. And so we're really, as a clinical therapist, we're really trained on how to keep those boundaries. And if we want to share something, that we don't have to have the urge to share it. But also at times it does make it feel like it's not safe to share. As I say, like, coming in here, it's like, I always joke, like, I love talking about myself. Like, I really don't, because it is so uncomfortable, because I had 4 sessions today. For those 4 sessions, I was listening to clients and I wasn't talking about myself. There's a few times I was like, ooh, this would be really relatable. Is this really pertinent to their story? And is this really, asking the questions to yourself in those moments, and then choosing, it's okay to leave that out. It's okay to just listen to them in that space. And so it's, now getting into this space and learning how to talk about myself and some of the things that we just go through as humans, it's a fun new experience.
Yeah, and I can't speak for everybody in the world, but in my personal opinion, I love when people are just open and vulnerable in whatever space they're in, because to me it shows more relatability, and it's like we take them off this high horse of thinking, oh, you're this guru therapist or fitness coach, you're up here, but then you hear them share the things they're struggling with, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay, you're just like me. And for example, one of my favorite speakers is Eric Thomas. And reason behind it started when I first heard him, and just hearing him share his story was so similar to mine, to where I instantly related to him and felt like, oh man, like, but inspired.
Right.
Tony Robbins is great. We all know who he is, but I never heard him when I was younger and thought like, oh man, and related to him, just didn't. But when I heard Eric Thomas' story, I was like, damn, and that's what I mean when we share our stories and share what we've been through, we connect more with others. Right. Because we're not the only one going through what we're going through. And that's almost how you find your tribe.
Yeah, that too. And there's so much to be said about finding a tribe, but also on what you were just saying, I often think about Eckhart Tolle, and one of the quotes that he mentions often is that, awareness is the agent to change. And oftentimes it's hard for us to bring awareness to what we're going through or how we can relate to somebody else if we're not hearing somebody else's story. And, if we're trying to make change, but we don't have community or tribes around us that have actually done what we've done, it's really hard to actually create the action behind the change, right? And so that tribe that you're talking about, I often will say I'd scream it on top of a hill. If you do not have a village or a tribe or a community in sense, right? You've got to go out and get uncomfortable to create that community if you actually want the change in yourself that you want to see, because we can't do it alone. And we shouldn't. No. That's not how we're created. I mean, this is why in-person podcasts are so fun, because we get to see each other in person and, actually connect on a different level. There's a lot to be said there. And that even after the pandemic, that's why I kept at least one day a week. So many people were like, oh, now, online telehealth isn't so bad with therapy. Like, it actually breaks down a lot of barriers of the travel, the gas cost, and things like that. But I will always keep at least one day in person, because the connection to my clients in an environment is so important. I'm exhausted after telehealth, and I feel so rejuvenated after in-person therapy, because it's harder for me to read.
Yeah.
But in person, there's just so much to be said, especially if you believe in energy, right?
Yeah. And as we open up this episode, I would love to know more. So you've been a licensed clinical social worker how long now?
So now it's been almost 4 or 5 years that I've been a licensed clinical social worker. And so, like I said, after you graduate, I'll just rewind that I actually went to school for elementary education. Okay. And realized that at that time, my husband was in the industry, working. We were working nightclubs before we had our first nightclubs and hosts.
Here in Vegas?
Here in Vegas, yeah, both of us. And we realized, okay, if I was going to go and put our child in daycare, it was my whole paycheck was going to go to daycare as a teacher. And so I ended up staying home, and then I tried to run from it, but I often say that this path wasn't mine. God just kept opening doors one after another for social work. And when I was home with my first child, I started helping out in Nye County, which is where I went to high school, and with a probation department. And everyone, we created programs for children who were about to fail the system and not be able to graduate. I fell in absolute love with that line of work. I was still teaching, right? But I was actually able to teach social emotional more teach them how to actually learn, how to regulate themselves to be more present in a room. And I saw the transformation so quick over those summer programs. And I wanted to figure out how to bring integrated healthcare out to Nye County. I like to think on rainbows and butterflies every once in a while. And that's ultimately how I met Natasha. Is I heard that she was after doing some research, head of integrated healthcare at UNLV. And I asked to have a meeting. She said she doesn't even know how I was able to get a meeting with her. Again, not my path, right? And I was able to have a meeting the next week with her. And she's like, man, why aren't you a social worker? I'm like, can I be real with you? Should I sugarcoat it? Like, I don't really know what to say. And at that time, I was helping out with an agency out in Nye County. And a lot of the social workers would come in, leave halfway through a session, leave after the session. Like, I don't do this level of trauma.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing then, right? Like, what is social work school actually teaching you if you don't understand and know how to navigate trauma? Because that's the majority of clients that are going to come to you. And so she said, I be fucking real with me. And I said, okay, I don't like social workers. I haven't met a social worker yet that can actually hold trauma or listen at the level that a person needs. You know, oftentimes I was seeing more harm than good. And not oftentimes, sometimes. I don't want to overgeneralize that at all. And that comes from my lived experience as well. When I tried to go to therapy at a young age after, you know, my mom struggled with alcoholism, and a family member was like, it would probably be good to talk to a therapist. At that time, I was probably like 13. I'm like, what the hell is a therapist, right?
Yeah, it's young.
Like, I don't want to talk to anybody about all this stuff. Like, nobody needs to know. You know, I was really good. Now I know, like, I don't know if you've heard of the adult adult children of alcoholics.
No.
Have you ever heard of that? Okay. Maybe we'll go back to it, or I'll show you. It's like a nice book, but it's honestly, it resembles a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so there's traits, there's things like that. And now I learned that more in my adult years, but there was a lot of traits that my family members were seeing that could have used support as I was in a home with a lot of alcohol. And I showed up to that first appointment, bawled my ever-loving eyes out to some stranger that I never met before. And about, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes into this session, I didn't know it was called a session at that time, right? He said, oh, your brother will get through his schizophrenia. I didn't even mention my brother. My brother does not have schizophrenia. And I realized, like, he said, I'm so sorry, I confused you with another client.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Do you have a brother?
I have a brother. He does not struggle with mental illness.
Oh, damn.
You know, and I didn't even mention him.
I thought you were going to say,
no.
I thought you were going to say you did have a brother with schizophrenia and that he just read the energy like a tarot or something. Oh,
no.
damn.
I mean, that would have almost been better, right?
Yeah.
Than completely being dismissed and not listened to for the, you know, first time that I probably opened up to a stranger ever. Right. I'm an older child. So of course, just handling the shit, just going through it. And I remember leaving that session like, I ever opening up about any of this again.
Damn.
Right. Like, oh, this is the level that professionals bring. Cool. Not doing that again. And so when this path started opening back up, I'm like, you know, a lot of those old feelings started coming up, and professionals can't hold their own. All of the narratives that were kind of created around that experience. Natasha looked at me and she said, you can be a different type of social worker. And I was like, I don't know what that looks like, but I love challenges. And oftentimes if I'm told that I can't do something or I can do something different, it's like it lights a fire. And I think it was, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 weeks later, I applied for a graduate school. Never thought I'd go back to school. I'll never forget the call that I made to my husband. And I said, I'm going to go back to school. He's like, I'm sorry, what? He knows how hard undergrad was for me.
Yeah.
We had 2 kids at that time, and there were 3. So at that time, probably 4 and 2. And he's like, what? And I was like, I don't know. And so we did some research, we dove in, and he's like, if this is the path that you want, like, let's do it, right? It's always been all in, and we were ready to go. And 2 weeks later, he got a job outside of the industry. We obviously were branching out. Like I was no longer a cocktail waitress. He wasn't a host, bar back. And he got a job in a construction company and traveled to Arizona at that time. So I went to a fast track master's program.
Damn.
For a 2-year program that's supposed to be 4 years with 2 kids under 5 and my husband traveling.
What the fuck?
I know, it was wild. I don't remember bits and pieces, but I remember very quickly that if I was going to show up for clients and be a different type of social worker, that I had to do my work first. And so that's when I started really seeking my own therapist, trying to figure out what that looked like. I think I went through at least 8 at that time. I was prescribed medication. I didn't want it yet because I wanted to figure out everything else. And that was to wrap that up, that was my journey starting social work. And I love the path at this point and was able to find a therapist. I learned about EMDR. Do you know what EMDR is?
Tell me.
It's eye movement rapid desensitizing. And after I graduated high school, I thought I was going to be a massage therapist. I went to school for massage, failed the test about 6 times, not knowing I had test anxiety, obviously debilitating test anxiety. And so I work with a lot of energy. And when I learned about EMDR and how it can help us reprocess old memory and stuck points in those memories, helping to desensitize what those memories have on our emotions and shift into a new light of energy, I was like, oh, this is my jam. Like, I don't have to talk about a bunch of stuff. We don't have to hash it. We can just go through the process. And so I went through about 8 months of EMDR for myself with a telehealth therapist, and it was so amazing. And I coupled that with Reiki. And for different seasons and different things I was working on, whether it be for mind or body, because the two are very connected. So if you're doing the work, there's so many modalities out there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that was a huge benefit. And I'll often say, if you want to be a different type of clinical therapist, helping profession in any light, like, you've got to do your shit first before you try and show up for other people, so that you don't bring the old stuff with you. And that's how I'm able to be a different type of therapist, I think.
That's good to have your bad experience and then decide to shift and still become that type of social worker, but your way. I think with a lot of professions or careers, it's important to take them on with that challenge and wanting to do things your way.
Yeah.
Within regulations of stuff, right? Like, don't go crazy out of what's, the regulation is of that field. But even for me with fitness, like, I'm doing Pilates now, teaching Pilates, right? Like, and in my head, I'm going to teach it the same way I've been teaching group fitness, but it's just a different modality. That's all it is. It's all fitness. I'm doing group reformer, but
oh my gosh, that's so fun.
Yeah. So when I first started doing it, I remember talking to the person who was teaching us, and I was like, do I need to change, like, the way I talk to them? I kept thinking I needed to be more, like
the yoga, like, energy. Yeah.
And to me personally, I hate that kind of talk. To each his own. But when I do yoga classes, I hate that there's like a cookie cutter tone and words and flow they do, and I don't like it. It just seems like you're fitting into this one category of yoga instructor or Pilates instructor and all sound the same. I do not want to sound like nobody ever, even. And she told me, she's like, well, with fitness, it's been working for you for 5-6 years. I think you stick with it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right.
Make it yours, right?
Exactly. And I love it. It's great. And yeah, like, do you know Dre Gardner?
It's not ringing a bell.
He's a yoga instructor out here, and I took his class, and I loved it because it didn't sound like a yoga person's class. It was him, his energy, his tone, the way he talked, and it was like him.
Yeah, that's like the energy that you gravitate to.
Yeah.
And isn't that so important to know that much about yourself, to know what works for you and what doesn't? I think that is a really important key to, like, staying on track, even though you're trying something different, is that, like, if I had to walk in and be a robot or be somebody else, Like, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah. I catch myself sometimes, 'cause I teach group fitness at Orange Theory. And when it comes to music selection, right?
Yeah.
So it's a group, like different ages, races, everything.
You can't meet everybody's needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's been I pretty much play hip hop, but I'll try to mix it here and there where it's not just strictly just drug dealing music. But there's been, that's why I listen to drug dealing
You better
stripper
hype
music.
me up if you're going to kick my butt in a class.
And I know my kind of music isn't always gonna be for everybody. So I try to find a good balance, but there's been times where I try to get out my way a little bit too much and I try to throw on some rock or something. I don't know so much rock and I'll sit there and I'm like, yeah, this ain't it. I got to just stick to what I know and what makes that class personal to me, or like my touch on that class. They may or may not like it, but
you can't be for everybody.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's okay.
And that's totally okay. And that's, I think, through any journey of helping other people and showing up for other people in such a big space, right? I often say, like, fitness instructors, hairstylists, estheticians, nail techs. I mean, y'all are still hearing people's heavy stuff. And so if you don't know how to show up in that space and enjoy it and be able to show up authentically you're going to burn out, and that's going to be felt. And so the more that you learn that you're not going to be for everybody, but if you could still show up as yourself, you're going to find your people, and the people that are for you are going to come to you, right?
Mm-hmm. I was talking to a friend the other day. She's like a business owner, and I expressed to her, like, you know, you may not realize it now, but you're a leader now. You know, if you run your own business, you're a leader. Mm-hmm. And you got to understand, with leadership, you're not meant to be liked by everybody, and you're not going to be, and you got to be okay with that. And that's one thing I've learned to be okay with for years now, is like, I don't want to be liked by everybody. I can't. That means you're wearing too many masks to try to please everybody. And honestly, I don't trust people like that who try to be liked by everybody. I don't know. What are you really about? Like, what's going on? Why do you need to be liked so much? Which
get
maybe
really curious, right?
Yeah. And she admitted that was like a deeper issue where she liked to be liked, you know, bugged her when not.
Yeah.
And everybody,
people pleasing.
There you go. People pleasing.
I know that so well.
Is that you?
Oh my gosh.
Still?
Not so much, but I've done some really heavy work around it. And I would venture to say you've probably done the same, right? To be able to show up authentically yourself, being sober. And no, I mean, and that was one of the traits I remember a therapist telling me about when it comes to adult children of alcoholics. And I think this trait comes from a lot of different avenues of lived experience too, is like that fear of being rejected, right? Like that uncertainty. And it was debilitating for me for a long time. And so I would overcompensate in so many areas, you know, whether it be in friendships or relationships, romantic relationships. I would stay way longer than I needed to. And then after doing that work, which I'm just so immensely grateful that I have a partner by my side who is my ride or die. I mean, he is cheering me on. His name is Josh.
Shout out Josh.
I know. I love you. He is like my rock, and we both encourage each other. We both check each other, right? Like there's no sugar coating if, you know, we're doing too much or not enough or showing up with old baggage coming in. I mean, we both come from a history of alcoholism within our family and drugs within our family. And when we really reconnected, we actually went to high school together.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you here in Vegas?
No, I was actually zoned for Rancho here in Vegas, and it was before it shifted to the tech school. So, you know, there was a couple shootings. I run my mouth a lot back in the day. And
you were involved in the shootings?
I was not, thankfully. But since I ran my mouth a lot, I like learned how to run fast because
you're not gonna fight.
I got my ass beat a couple times.
Did you?
Yeah.
Damn, girl.
Shout out to Von Tobel Middle School.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's gonna put some thick skin on you.
Damn, that's okay.
Yeah. So shout outs to Northtown, right? And so,
shout out to Northtown. Let's go.
And
that's
so oftentimes
hilarious.
when things get heavy, right? It's like, Northtown, stay down. Like, I've done enough work.
Yeah.
Like,
Where'd you go to high school? What high school did you go to?
So I was zoned for Rancho.
Yeah.
And behind our trailer park was it was literally like a nightclub was built. Like you could hop the wall and there was a nightclub built behind our trailer park, which was right behind my house.
Chicas Bonitas?
Maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
That's a
did
strip
you
club.
know one?
No,
I was
that's a
like,
strip
I
club.
don't really know what it was turned into, but
okay.
I'm pretty sure it was a nightclub at the time.
Okay.
And my dad was like, we got to go. And so we moved out to Nye County, out to Prump.
Oh.
And I was like, what the hell is this place? People are like missing teeth.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
what is happening? And I fell in love with the town. He put me on a ranch. Like, we ended up having a ton of animals.
Aw.
But that was like really the time that my mom was super, super sick with alcoholism.
Wow.
And I mean, huge blackout nights. Like, I felt like I saved a lot of my energy for those nights so then I could like scream and yell and get really mad about her choosing a bottle over us, essentially. And going back to what brought me here is my husband and I met in high school out in Pahrump. And I don't remember our date. I don't remember him meeting my dad. I don't like remember him calling a month later and I was like talking to his friend instead of him. And that whole period of time is nicely filed away in a very protective part of my brain.
Why?
For whatever was happening at home
With your mom?
with the alcoholism. Yeah. Yeah. And so there's definitely periods. I mean, I have, even to this day, I'll have friends come up to me, you know, like when we get together with our friends out in Nye County, and they're like, oh, do you remember this? Or you did this when your brother did this? And I'm like, yeah.
Really?
And a lot of it, I don't recall. Yeah. And
That's
so
crazy.
he, you know, when he reminded me when we first reconnected, when we were back in Vegas, I was actually working in Palms Spa and he was working out at the Palms pool. I was failing my tests. And he's like, why don't you come be a cocktail waitress? I'm like, screw you. I am not putting a bikini on in a Las Vegas pool. And he's like, well, do you know how much money they make? I'm like, I'm sorry, where's the application? And like that, honestly, we kept talking through then. And I'll never forget when he told me that story that we went on a date. He met my dad and I was like, I don't recall any of it. You know,
Does your dad recall it?
No.
Maybe he's lying.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Lying.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh.
But my dad, no. My dad has those blocks too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And and my brother was in his own world, you know, like doing his survival traits and I mean, just being a teenager.
Is your mother still alive?
She is not alive any longer.
Did she pass away from alcohol?
Cirrhosis of the liver, yeah, when I was 27. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was in my undergrad at the time and, you know, she was sick for a long time. I mean, she was my size. Like I said, remember, I'm like super tall. I'm like 4'11 3/4. And I mean, every night she was with a bottle of VO, just downing that.
What is VO?
Like it's the old school whiskey and it has like a big VO on it.
Plastic bottle?
I think it's plastic. I would venture to say it's plastic.
Damn, so whiskey was her thing.
Yeah. And so she would have like a bottle a night. She was like functioning for a long time through our childhood. And my dad was really, I mean, my dad's my rock too. He is still alive. And he is just, I mean, he's kicking, let me tell you. But when, I don't know, maybe around 8 years old, I remember that's like really when the tables kind of like the rug was pulled out from under my feet, I would say. You know, I thought like life was good. And I mean, yeah, we lived in Northtown, but I loved our neighborhood. I mean, I would go meet up with friends and we would ride around and it was a good time. But my mom was always in bed by like 5 o'clock.
Damn.
Right? Like, and I would always question like, damn, she goes to bed early, but she wakes up early. And she was always like in the kitchen, getting the crock pot together or cleaning up the house, doing the laundry before she went off to work. So I'm like, oh, she wakes up early. And then it dawned on me, like my dad's like putting her to bed or she's passing out. And then it started to become more and more obvious as the alcoholism really took over. And, you know, she wasn't able to do certain things or show up for certain things because she would be wasted, you know, like God forbid having like a sleepover because nobody was to know that my mom functioned this way because during the day she was a beautiful, amazing woman. I mean, her food, her cooking, I still miss it, but we just didn't talk about it. And not a lot of people really knew that was going on.
Were you able? Do you know why?
The alcoholism?
Where it came from for her?
I guess I would say that I probably have a lot of speculations of how her childhood was. A lot of my mom's side of the family is still out here in Las Vegas. And I only, like, the biggest things that I recall is just the discomfort that my mom would have every time we would go and do a visit with her mom or her grandmother. And, it was just not comfortable. So I have a lot of ideas. There's a lot of, but I don't want to pinpoint it, right? Because now I really know that alcoholism is a disease, and sometimes it doesn't take much for the body to need some type of coping skill, and all of a sudden it's the quick fix of alcohol, and that reward center is built so quick that in order to function or whatever it may be, the alcoholism is what helped her function. Unfortunately, there was definitely a lot of periods of time in, early teen years where my brother and I would be fighting, or we would just be doing the teenage stuff. I mean, now I know as a mom of teenagers, holy hell, Jesus, take the wheel. But she, would get pretty drunk, and my brother and I would get so angry about it, and she would blame us. Well, if you guys weren't this or whatever, right? I mean, bring up the book of narratives of why we triggered her drinking. And so for a long time, I did believe that it was me, right? Like, oh, I was like an asshole kid, which I wasn't. I was a pretty good kid.
I don't know. You said you was in school shootings and shootouts and
that
fighting
was at
and running.
Rancho.
Okay.
They stole my bag in PE, bro. Like, you know how hard it was to get that bag I really wanted? You gotta take accountability,
Megan. It was you the whole time.
I take full accountability.
But go ahead, continue, sorry.
I was actually better in Vegas, in Northtown, than I was out in Nye County, to be honest with you.
I believe it. I'd go crazy there too. I've only been there a few times. Shit.
I mean, and now, like, I have a lot of respect for Nye County. It's just not a place that I wanted to live, like as a teenager. So, yeah, I mean, going back to that is, now I really know that, I mean, she was dealing with whatever she was dealing with, and that was just her way of coping.
What was so your mom has the drinking issue, and as time goes on, you said she passed away, cirrhosis of the liver. Yeah. Those last few years, was it like you saw her slowly declining and going and you knew it was coming? Or was it like you got a call one day, hey, she's in the hospital? Yeah,
no. By the time I would say I was in 10th grade, I really had a lot of awareness, thankfully, and I was really, as amazing of a woman as my mom was, it was one of those things. I remember telling myself, I know everything and a lot of the traits that I want to be as a mom, but I also know a lot of the traits that I'm not going to bring with me that she has as a mom. And I held those really close, and I still do to this day. And so maybe around 10th grade, I remember just the nightly fights, because she would just wake up wanting to fight my dad. My dad worked in Las Vegas, and, he needed sleep. I mean, at that time, that 2-lane road from Vegas to Pahrump was one of the most dangerous roads in the nation, deadliest roads in the nation. So, of course, as the older child, I'm like, oh my God, he's got to get sleep,
Yeah.
And so I told my dad, I'm like, I remember having the conversation with him. I'm like, if you're not happy, you're okay to go. Like, life is way too short. And he did. My parents ended up separating around that time, and he met somebody else at the time, and he was having fun, and I chose to stay with my mom for a while. And I believe, I don't know, my brother's gonna have to remind me on this one, but I believe my brother was able to go too. But we stayed a lot with our friends at that time, but my mom really went downhill at that point. She ended up, showing up to work drunk, finally getting caught for that, even though, she was a functioning alcoholic for so long.
Damn.
Yeah. And she ended up losing her job, ended up losing the house. And my grandfather lived out in Idaho. And so she ended up moving out there. I think we kind of like shipped her out there, because at that point, it was pretty bad. I mean, It was getting pretty aggressive. There was a lot of calls. I mean, I tried to do a lot of interventions, like with friends and things like that, just trying to get her I guess at that point, to the awareness of change, but she just wasn't ready for it. And I held a lot of that anger for a lot of time until I did healing. But now knowing the disease of alcoholism, she just wasn't ready for it. And when she moved out to Idaho, about the time that I graduated high school, I thought that it was going to be a very short time after that she wasn't going to make it. I mean, I could see the yellowing in her eyes starting.
Oh, shit.
And her skin tone started to change really quick. She was losing a lot of hair, teeth. I mean, she wouldn't go to the doctor, right? Like, why would you go to the doctor if you're drinking that heavily? What are they going to tell you? You got to stop drinking, right? And it was actually the last time I saw her was at my wedding. And we just celebrated our 19th year wedding anniversary on the 21st. Shout out to our asses, like doing the damn thing, doing the work.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw her, if I would have saw her walking on the street beside her, I would not have recognized that was my mom.
Damn.
Yeah. Just skin and bones, her eyes, her skin was yellow at that point, which I knew, as a professional at that, like close to that point, that the liver was shutting down. And her boyfriend at the time was, just an amazing man. I mean, I don't know the strength that God gave him through that time. But as we know, enabling too, right? And so he told me around 6 months after, like, she just stopped eating and she was only drinking. And so I was just, waiting. And my husband at that time we were trying for a child right around, and it took us about a year to conceive. And we ended up finding out that we conceived less than 2 months after she passed away. It was wild. Mm-hmm.
Did you have any issues with alcohol?
So I've definitely used it as a big coping. I mean, my whole family are pretty big drinkers, and so it's a very socially accepted form of relaxation. No. I would say it's like, I guess the cowboy mentality, right?
I guess I was kind of a little judgy saying you're Irish because you drink a lot. My bad.
Yeah,
sorry,
that was. Yeah,
Irish people.
Check in on that.
But I just know some cultures drinking is within their.
Yeah.
Like if it was Mexicans, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys are throwing back them Tecates or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think certain cultures drink more than others, possibly.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would say culturally, because even on my dad's side, my aunt's not a big drinker. My mom's side, yes, they have a good time. I mean, a lot of my cousins are in the industry now and doing alcohol distribution. So, I think socially it's a very acceptable thing. But I started drinking when I was 13.
Damn, what were you drinking?
Probably my mom's VO or some shit in the cabinet. I was bringing, this is so wild, but we were bringing baby bottles of alcohol to school.
At 13?
And nobody was saying anything.
At 13?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What happened to, I was just a good little kid?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we should probably rewind that.
See, I remember.
Yeah, you do remember. Yeah, I was still a good kid, all right? We're not going to judge my younger child.
Wow,
I've done some work on her. She's a good kid.
Wow, not good for you, but damn, 13, that's young.
Mm-hmm. We finally got caught because a friend got pretty wasted in the middle of class and fell over a desk, those type of things. And, and I remember the principal, like, don't do this again or then I'm going to tell your parents. And I'm like, holy hell, he's not going to call my parents. How is that? How is he not going to call my parents? And I was like, girl, you were just gifted like a get out of jail card. Like, what are you going to do with it? And I remember after that, although a lot of us were there was more drugs out in Nye County than I saw in Vegas.
I believe it.
In a large way. And I tried things, but I didn't like the lack of control after that. And I want to say, especially when we started talking about having kids, that's really when my own health journey started. Like, I've got to get these things in check if I want to break cycles. I was in the nightclub industry. I was cocktailing in pools from 21 to 23. And, that was part of the life, right? Like, you're working, having shots, you're getting done with work and going out with everyone after. So it was very ingrained in just patterns, essentially. And when we started talking about having kids, that's when we really, both my husband and I, decided that this wasn't going to be a control factor over us. And it was like, I shouldn't say that, but I chose very much so to not drink any longer when we were trying to conceive, none through pregnancy. I nursed for almost a year and a half, 2 years with both kids, so didn't drink when I was nursing. And that's when I really realized, like, I don't need this to have fun. I don't need this to relax, right? I mean, even in movies, it's like, let's have a glass of wine. It's so easy to just create narratives around alcohol that this is what I need to cope, or this is what I need to relax. And that's when I got into more Reiki, more breath work, and EFT tapping is a big one. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's actually cute because they put a clinical word on acupuncture points, which is from massage school.
Okay.
And so when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, y'all are cute, like in the clinical setting for putting, these clinical terms. Now I can bring it into the therapy office, but really it's tapping on meridian points and using affirmations to shift from those, thought process patterns that are holding us back and naming them into reframing them and future installing new narratives through meridian work. So it's like simple tapping
with your
different meridians.
The therapy work you do, what is the type of clientele, or is there a niche you have, or certain kind of people you see, or is it just general?
So right now I have my private practice, and so I'm a solo private practice therapist. And
what's the name of your private practice?
Peak Mental Health.
Peak Mental Health.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I was supposed to house all of the education side of Mental Summit, but...
So what is Mental Summit?
So Mental Summit is an online base for mental health education and mental wellness. So emotion regulation skills, a lot of the coping skills that we just talked about. Oftentimes I hear in my clinical setting, Megan, I wish I knew about this, or I wish I knew how to do this, or I wish somebody told me about this when it came to learning how to relax or calm. And so Mental Summit is a database, an online self-guided tools for all of the things emotion regulation.
Gotcha.
So if you're not quite ready for therapy, if you're in therapy and you want to do continued work, if you've graduated therapy and you want to continue to learn about yourself, it's really modules set up specifically for that. Coming, I would say late October, I'm going to specifically zone in a little bit more for working moms of elementary school age children to grade school children, just to kind of like build a specific platform for that, because right now that's a lot of the influx of struggle that I see coming into the office for my clinical side. And so I'm going to meet those needs where they're at right now. And so that will be coming. You can follow at mymentalsummit.com or Instagram. But as far as my private practice goes, yes, a big influx of, moms of young children, but I primarily work with trauma. And so I do a short 10 to 15 minute consultation to make sure that you're ready to do the work. I love the light work of therapy, but I'm not the therapist for it. And I work on getting to the root. So I'm EMDR trained, working on certification. That's a long process. And trauma level 1, 2. So these are all certifications after graduating school.
In your opinion, based off what you've experienced, what do you think causes people to not want to do the work? Or do you think it's more so they don't know how?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of levels to answer that question. I think that we all come with a history. And so there may be narratives that, that we're holding on to, that we're not worthy of that change, or that we just don't know how. So it gets so overwhelming to create the change. But also that, Maya Angelou's quote, one of my favorite quotes is, if you don't know better, do better until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. I didn't do her quote justice, but, yeah, I think you get it.
Yeah, I get it.
And so a lot of times, people are trying to do the best that they can do, but they don't know how to do better. And when they know how to do better, more times than not, they do start doing better. And I would say the biggest thing about active change is that we live in a society of, the 30-day fix or the 60-day this. We really live in a society of quick change, which is why quick fixes are so much on the rise. But healing and a healing journey and creating change, there is no quick fix for that, and so when people come into the office, if they're not ready, it is heavy work. It's exhausting. And so if I work on creating a really big foundation before we actually start to do trauma work, I think that I would do clients a disservice if we're not working on them holistically first. So checking in with how your physical health is, right? If you haven't been to the doctor in 2 years, it's going to be harder for me to diagnose if we don't have medical rule outs. And so getting to a primary care physician and getting that blood work done is going to be a big one, because if you have physical ailments going on, how are we going to focus on your mental health, right? And then, if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating well, if you don't have those patterns in place, working on mental health is going to be hard. And so a lot of, I can't answer that question in an easy way, because there's so many layers to that answer. And I've worked on child psychiatric hospitalization units for 5 years, up until the military first responders unit, and then now in private practice, in school settings with children. So I've really worked with a plethora of clients.
Good choice of word. I like that.
Yeah. And
plethora.
Yeah. I tend to work with clients that I was scared of, right? Like, oh, I don't know their path, or whatever it may be. And oftentimes that foundational piece is really missing in order for them to create the change. And there is no 30-day fix for that. It really is. I want to say, if you think about the cycle of change, do you ever talk to your clients about the cycle of change? Right? Like we have pre-contemplation, contemplation,
sometimes,
right? And then
I forgot about
action. That. Yeah. And we often do, right? Because we're so inundated with change being this quick thing, when in reality, the pre-contemplation stage, something's wrong here, that you have to have awareness, which is why Eckhart Tolle's quote is always at the forefront. And I share it anytime I can, is without awareness, it's an agent of change. We can't create change if we don't know that something's wrong. And then you go into oh, I could do something about this. And then you go into forming a plan and trying to figure out how you can do that. That's going to take some time. And so if you're just going and forgetting all of this and going into action stage, you're probably going to have some type of relapse, right? Whether it be sobriety, whether it just be getting to the gym every day, right? And I will often say, of course, I'm not going to say this in a level of drug addiction or things like that, but when it comes to creating change on other levels, relapse isn't always a bad thing, because it helps us bring awareness in, I needed to have all of this in place.
I said to people a lot when it comes to, especially with the sobriety stuff.
Yeah.
When people reach out, they'll tell me, hey, I'm this many days. Then somebody will have a day where they mess up and go back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good. It sounds crazy, but I'm like, it's good, because now you get a learning lesson in a sense, right? You're like, oh, damn, I went 2-3 weeks, and then you have that experience, and it kind of it was almost like a reminder of where you don't want to be anymore, what you don't want to do anymore. So now you're back on the wagon.
Yeah,
and
you
might
probably
go a
have
little longer.
all of these resources that you've worked on building to help you get back on that wagon. And now this time, you have more resources to even get back on the wagon. And you've probably created some community to get back on the wagon, and some safe holds in place. And that's really when change starts to happen, is when the action steps start getting taken and you fall a few times, because that's not failure, right? I remember I shared just earlier that I failed that massage test around 6 times. That was a shit ton of money, and that was so embarrassing, because I would hype it up.
I'm just kidding.
No, it really is. It was actually. Don't judge me. It hurts. No. But I remember being so embarrassed to share that. I failed again. And then I went down the avenue of becoming a teacher, and I felt because I didn't do massage, I passed the test, by the way. I took a half of a Valium and passed the test, because somebody finally brought to awareness as I'm holding,
pop them things.
As I was holding the mic or the mouse to take the test, my hand was shaking. I could barely answer
Aw,
the test,
yeah,
right?
Meg.
Right. And then when I half of a Valium, probably more of a freaking placebo effect at that point to get and bring this awareness of like, oh, I've got to work on what it feels like to walk into this test first. And I've got to mentally prepare rather than walking in this test like I'm going to probably fail again.
Yeah.
But I never, ever gave up. And that's when I realized, and that's something that I love to share, is that when you fall, that's not failure. You're not giving up. Like if you're getting back up and going again, that is the biggest strength that you can have when it comes to wanting to create change or wanting to grow.
Mm.
And you know, I mean, we could probably sit on the growth topic forever because if we're not growing, we're dying, right?
Yeah, and it's almost like beating a dead horse sometimes. People
I hate
know
that
what they need to do.
analogy.
People
I'm so I'm
Really?
such an
Being a
image
dead
person.
horse?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, because
Yeah.
you imagine a dead horse getting beat?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know where it comes from. I'm gonna look
I
that
know,
up.
we should.
So there's probably another
Maybe it would
option.
help.
But there's something you just said. Oh yeah, I agree with it's not failure to me. If it's not failure until you quit.
Yeah.
And if you quit, then damn, that's a failure. And there should be no
Yeah.
reason you quit unless let me think. I guess if you repivot to another way, I don't know.
Yeah. Or you're quitting something that's not good for you, right? Like you're quitting alcohol, you're quitting drugs.
There was a saying somebody said when it came to reading books. It was like, give up before you want to quit.
I don't know.
Something like that, to where like,
Okay.
let's say you're reading a book. It's like, wrap it up and give it up. Like stop reading before you want to quit reading the book. Something like that.
Oh, okay. So you take a damn break.
I gotta find it. But it made
Yeah.
sense when they said it, because I'm like, damn, if I'm reading a book and I'm just reading and reading, now I'm like, I'm over this shit, as opposed to
Yeah.
stopping. And then I forgot the saying. I'm about to edit this part out because it didn't make no sense. But back to what we were
Well,
saying.
If I'm hearing you, here comes my clinical hat. If I'm hearing
you
you,
go.
is that if you think about wanting to pivot, and if instead of quitting, you say, I'm going to take a break, or I'm going to go do something for a few minutes and then I'm going to get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to reframe rather than actually quitting.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah. I
Teamwork.
brought it back around.
Yeah.
I got you.
With the work you do now, was there any moments like when you got into therapy, or you became a licensed clinical social worker?
No, I got you.
Say that 10 times straight.
Straight.
Was there imposter syndrome?
You know, I've done a lot of work around imposter syndrome for myself, and there's different levels of imposter syndrome, and there's a lot to be said about imposter syndrome. But I would honestly say that I know that a part of me is a perfectionist, and I'm an expert perfectionist, and it's hard for me to show up in a space unless I know all the things and I can spew it out. But I also know that that's not me. Like I'm not great at memorizing things, and I'd love to have notes in front of me. And so is that being an imposter if there's just parts of me that doesn't know how to show up that way yet? No. It's really about that I have to do these things in order to know how to do them better, or I have to try something and then I can always pivot to something else. But I think that going back to what we talked about, kind of like the pressure of social work and the stigma attached around having alphabet soup behind my name there is a lot of pressure. I mean, I want to say, I remember graduating and I started my clinical hours, and remember, like it was a 2-year fast track program. So I crammed 4 years in 2 years of education. And I got out, and my first job, I was hired at the psychiatric hospital, and they're like, okay, what modalities are you using? What are you an expert in? And that was the question in every interview almost. And that felt debilitating. And I remember trying to just grapple with the idea of having to be an expert in one of these modalities in order to show up as this expert therapist, as I've just graduated and I've just started a 3,000-hour clinical trial underneath Natasha, right? And she's going to support me through this, and I'm going to get the time to now explore these different modalities that I didn't get to explore while I was in grad school. But I wouldn't have been able to say that to myself then. Then it was like, damn, Megan, you don't know this stuff. You better get it together. You better show up acting like you know this stuff. So it was like quick refreshers as I go in, trying to figure out what I was an expert in and how I was going to show up. Now, I will say for those baby therapists out there that are listening is do the extra certification while you're in grad school, because you're going to get major discounts on those trainings as you're a student, which I didn't pay much attention to, nor did I have time. I mean, I was a mother of 2. My husband was traveling, so I'm not going to beat myself up for it. But you absolutely can become an expert in one of those topics that ignite you and fire you up in the modality of therapy. So for any baby therapists listening, you can get those, expertise, and I highly recommend it. But it's not so much imposter syndrome. It was that I was doing the best that I could do at that time, and I just didn't know yet.
Is there anything you're struggling with now that nobody knows?
Anything I'm struggling with now that nobody knows? I mean, shit, there's a ton, right? Like I have my health stuff that I'm like working on, and I'm starting to share that a little bit. Go get your checkups, y'all.
What's wrong?
A wild story. This is a wild one. But, and again, as it's not my path, a dentist told me that I needed Invisalign or braces. I've never heard that. I've never had braces. And I was like, I'm going to go to my kid's orthodontist. Like, I trust his opinion. And everything in me was like, just cancel the appointment. This is so silly. Your teeth are fine. And I show up, and he's looking at all the scans, and he's like, I'm going to send a cardiology referral stat. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what are you seeing? And he's like, there may be a blockage in your brain. And he shows me. And so we're starting that whole journey. And so lots of tests, lots of things like that. But, on top of being a mom right now, a football mom, on top of that, both my boys are in tackle football. I mean, I'm running 2 businesses. And so adding those extra appointments in right now, the overwhelm.
Wait, so you don't know the results yet?
No, I don't know those results yet.
You know what's wild is I had a similar situation where I went to get, I fell a 4-story window 10 years ago. My body's all messed up. So I went to a chiropractor and did x-rays. Man, this dude scared the shit out of me. He was like, and it's crazy because this chiropractor actually works with my orthopedic doctor. That I didn't know that.
Okay.
So I tell him who orthopedic doctor is. He does x-rays and he's like, hey, it looks like my right ventricle something. Oh my God. So go to Google, type it in. I'm like, fuck.
Dr. Google.
Damn. This is it.
Google will tell us we're dying tomorrow, right?
10 years later, it's not happening. And then I sent the x-ray to my orthopedic, and I mean, nothing. He said it just looked, from his view, a shadow of something. I forgot about that till you just brought it up. I might need to go check that out.
Go check it out. Yeah, follow up on your appointments.
Just ignore it.
No, I'm going to check on your ass now. Like, did you get that appointment? I know. No, and but really, just the management as a mom, managing my own health, managing, I never thought I'd have a business of my own, ever. It was like I would love to do my paycheck and, clock my hours and go home. But I wanted to do something different. So starting Peak Mental Health was a big one. And then an attorney said, Megan, if you want an education platform, you have to start a second business to protect your license. And it was a gut punch because Peak Mental Health was like my baby.
Yeah.
I'm sure, starting businesses, it's like they're your baby. And so starting a second business, that's been a struggle to really like run a household. My husband still travels today. He's out of town about 4 days a week. And my boys are on 2 different football teams at 2 different locations. And so, maintaining as a mom that emotion regulation for myself, showing up for 15 to 20 clients a week and kind of managing all that. I mean, every day I have to actively choose the coping skills that I'm going to use, how I'm going to regulate, how I'm going to show up for my boys, how to show up for my clients. And then how to show up bigger for myself in spaces like this that are asked of me, hey, you want to show up? Yeah, I want to, right?
Yeah.
And that can be a struggle to show up in all of those places. But I've learned how to give myself grace. I've learned something over nothing is so important. So if I don't make it to my CrossFit hour, then I go for a walk with my dogs, and that is good, right? Where sometimes that perfectionist side of me shows up and it's like, well, you didn't do that hour workout. now you're trash.
Yeah, do better.
Yeah, do better.
So let me ask you this. We're gonna wrap up here in a few minutes. What advice would you give yourself when you first started your journey to becoming a clinical social worker?
I love that. Schedule and make time for your healing and for your self-care. I know everybody talks about self-care. This isn't, for those baby therapists, this isn't like going to a spa and having spa. Like, yeah, that's cool. But like, how your self-care, how are you talking to yourself when you first wake up? How are you looking at yourself in the mirror? How are you showing up for yourself every day? How are you nourishing your body and hydrating? Like, actually schedule those things throughout the day, because it goes by so fast and there's so much demand, and you're pouring to so many other people all day long, especially, you know, if you're in school plus practicum hours, you're working for free as a therapist. Make sure as you're scheduling time for your clients, you're scheduling time for yourself. Mm-hmm.
The baby therapists out there.
Yes.
Now, what is a quote you live by and why?
So I've said a couple of them, and I guess, you know, I'll stick with Eckhart Tolle's quote that, you know, awareness is the agent for change. And then I'll couple that with Maya Angelou's quote that, you know, without, let's see, I'm going to mess this up again.
Good, mess it up. Let's go.
That, you know, if you don't, you're doing your best until you know better. And then when you know better, you do better. And because we have choices every day to make, and it really is up to you. Nobody's going to come save you. I can give you all the tools in a clinical setting, but you've got to put it to practice. And I live by that every day, is that I practice what I teach. I show up for myself, and I honor those around me, and I honor rest. But I had to work on that.
I love it.
Yeah.
What do you have anything coming up in October or the end of the year you would like to let us know about?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit
You
Mental
can look
Summit.
in this camera here if you want to talk to the audience directly.
Yeah, let's look at the audience. So Mental Summit is going to be doing a little bit of a revamp, meeting some of my busy working moms where they're at. And so come October, check out mymentalsummit.com, and there's going to be, you know, along the way, some ways to gain some tools to manage the holiday season and show up for yourself as well as your family. I know how important it is for moms to take time for themselves as a busy mom myself, and I want to just make sure to show up for them as well. And so come October, continue to check out mymentalsummit.com, and I'm on Instagram. I believe it's just at Mental Summit. I'm sure it will be linked in the show notes. Tons of resources on mymentalsummit.com. So if you're looking for a therapist, if you're looking for tools, I have everything housed on my website. And, you know, don't hesitate to reach out either, because I don't mind connecting resources.
Beautiful, beautiful, Megan. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
You got the boys, your business. You still made time to come show up for not just me, but yourself.
Yeah.
And I will tag, maybe I'll think about tagging your Instagram. We'll see. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tag your Instagram and website into the description of this podcast so people can go check you out. And then you guys, before I give you your favorite part, the word, I got some announcements coming up Sunday, October 26th, Pilates in Pink breast cancer awareness event here in Las Vegas at the rooftop of the Uncommons. We'll be doing mat Pilates led by Jackie Harris, raising money for the Las Vegas breast cancer warriors, 12 to 2 p.m. I'll link that in the description here also. Woo, it's a lot to say here. Now I can leave you with a word. You do not need more information. You need more action. You've listened to all the podcasts. You've read the books. You've been to the seminars. You got all this information. Don't become an information hoarder. Put those tools to use today. No more Mel Robbins podcast, Hormozy this, Hormozy that. You've seen the quotes. You know it all already. Put those tools to work. 2 words. Get to work. That's 3. Who cares? My podcast. I do what I want. We out.